Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to episode 134. And this episode, we wanted to talk about Trombone Champ. If you've played Trombone Champ, you know why we're talking about it. And if you haven't played Trombone Champ, play Trombone Champ. I think you'll very much enjoy it. And to that end, we are joined by the developer and designer of Trombone Champ of Holy Wow Studios, Dan Vecchito. And we are also joined by a fellow podcaster and noble, proud warrior of the ska wars, Kam Konek. Dan, Kam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, likewise.
This should be fun.
And games.
10 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Right.
10 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
This is when we do this.
The Sleepy Podcast.
It's prime video game time,
Right.
I think.
Aren't we all always up early playing video games?
That's the stereotype,
10 a.m.
yeah.
every day.
Definitely that.
That's the stereotype.
I mean, honestly, 7:30 in the morning is some of my best video game playing time any day of
Hey,
the
I'm
week.
happy for
But
you.
I'm I'm an outlier. I should not be counted.
Yeah, I think I woke up maybe half an hour ago. So
Same.
I guess to start, Trombone Champ is one of those games that kind of came out of nowhere. One of the reasons Kam is here is because, Kam posted multiple videos of the ridiculousness he accomplished in this game. But, I have to wonder, Dan, did you have any idea the virality of this game? Or was it just we want to make a fun little thing and see if people, dig it? Where was your head at before it kind of blew up overnight?
I always thought it might go mildly viral, but I think we've all been kind of blown away by how viral it's gone. It kind of blew past our wildest expectations. We've actually made a bunch of small games before and a bunch of other things that have gone kind of viral. But, all those are what you'd expect, to get shared around a bit. And that's it.
No, I remember when Icarus Proud Bottoms Teaches Typing first came out a number of years ago, and there's a couple of small articles about it, and that's how I found it. And it was a very funny thing to come back around to when reaching out to you about this, realize, oh my God, Holy Wow made that too. And a very similar type of, this is an enjoyable experience. It's kind of wild. It absolutely is that sort of game that goes viral. But you're right, this is a whole nother level.
Yeah, I kind of don't understand why, actually. It's still kind of a mystery to me because especially the concept is so limited. Or rather, it seems like the audience would be limited, because it's it's a rhythm game, which has there's a very specific rhythm game audience, and it's a trombone game, so I really did not expect it to get any sort of mass appeal whatsoever. And in fact, I released the trailer for this 2 years ago or something. It's a while ago. I've been working on this for a while. I didn't really get that much interest until the launch. I mean, the trailer looks like the final game, but I think it got 90 likes or something. That's it, and that's kind of what I expected. So,
fair.
Not sure what happened. If someone figures it out, let me know.
I mean, my best guess is the fact that there's plenty of games that have a limited control set or something where the joy is not watching it being played well. I have not watched the original trailer that you put up for Trombone Champ, but I feel as though watching other people do their damnedest to do well and utterly failing to take me out to the ball game sound like anything but a tragedy is part of the joy, as the way I've been recommending it to people, and I've recommended it on other podcasts as well. The thing of once you let go of the idea of doing well and sounding good, that's when you start having an amazing time, and getting to engage in that with other people, I think is definitely not the secret to its success or its charm, but I think it's a good component.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's one of those games where the worse you do, the more entertaining it is.
Kind of.
And in fact, if you do it, if you were to theoretically play it perfectly from the beginning, it wouldn't be that funny. It might be just kind of boring. I don't know. There's a bunch of games like this now. Someone mentioned, I was talking about this, and someone mentioned Surgeon Simulator.
Yes.
Yeah.
This genre of games where you just do something badly, and that's the fun of it.
Or QWOP or I Am Bread or any of those other ones.
Yeah.
I used to compare this a lot to QWOP, where it's just it's really simple and you're trying to do something simple, but it's fun because you fail so badly most of the time.
And you've now spent 3 hours doing the same thing over and over, and you feel like none of the time was wasted.
Yeah. I think what might draw people to the game too is that you actually can do it not so badly if you try really hard. I'm not sure if you can ever make it sound truly good, good enough that you would actually, just throw it on you'd load it up on Spotify and listen to it for fun. But, you can get accurate and you can get high scores, which is interesting about it. Mm-hmm. Same is true of QWOP too, I guess. You can't actually run in QWOP if you spend 10,000 hours in that game, I think.
Yeah, at some point, a good run of QWOP, or I guess a good song of Trombone Champ, still just it has like a bad mouth feel, but in a way that is really charming, I guess.
Bad mouth feels a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the song list because, like, first of all, just all cards on the table as a Jew, seeing Hava Nagila in there made me very excited just because I can't think of a rhythm game that's ever had any Jewish music, really. I mean, I have to assume over the tenure of Rock Band, the original release of the trilogy, there must have been some Jewish artists on there or something like
I guess
that.
if anything by Kiss was on there,
Technically. But
Jewish music.
But like the fact that I booted it up and the first song I could play was Hava Nagila was pretty awesome. I'm curious how y'all curated the song list. Was it a little bit of like simplicity? Is it a little bit of like just stuff that you really wanted to see? Like, how did you figure out
necessity?
Or necessity, yeah. But like, I'm curious about the construction and the choices.
It's kind of boring, but the biggest factor is just what was in the public domain or royalty free. Because again, we didn't expect this to blow up at all. So we didn't really have any budget. Like this whole game, we built it as a hobby, essentially. It was like nights and weekends over the course of years. So just a lot of it was just me just Googling which like really recognizable famous songs would work for trombone and our public domain. So of course there's some classical, like Eine kleine Nachtmusik and stuff, because everyone knows that. And I think the game is more fun if you know what the melody's supposed to sound like, because then you have it in your head. I had a lot of, I was going through a bunch of folk music. So that's why like Old Grey Mare is in there. I love that song. If you're an old Simpsons fan, that was like prominently featured in
Old man with the pants around his ankles.
Yeah. The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be. I think it's the Krusty Gets Canceled episode, which is like the best episode ever of Simpsons.
Yeah.
That is a really good episode.
Yeah. And then a lot of it was other just like, what other famous folk songs do I know that might be public domain? And I'm not Jewish, but I love Hava Nagila. It just, I don't know. The song kicks
so
ass.
good.
It's such a great song. It's
so
I love
good,
like
yeah.
it's like half major and half minor. It's like a fun song and like in a minor key. I like if you Google the lyrics, it's just like a really simple celebratory song.
Yeah.
Like I forget what exactly it translates to, but it's just like, hey, let's have a good time.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
is
a great
like,
feel good song. Yeah.
It's a broad like celebration song that is done at many events and is off and like is just always joyous. Like there's no like emo version. Well, I'm sure there is. I'm sure someone has done without a doubt there
And
is.
if not, there will be within a week.
Is there a screamo version?
Right. But by design, it's a joyous song. And so like when I first like, I think part of the reason I was so bad at it is by design, but also like I just was laughing. I'm like, I'm playing Hava Nagila on the trombone. This is great. Like, it's not a thing I ever imagined I'd be able to do, especially as a Jewish human. And it's really fun to see that kind of dedication to doing something silly but fun, because that's the heart of that song too, right? And a lot of the songs that are on here are kind of silly but fun.
Yeah. And I'm glad you feel that way, because I was always slightly concerned that people might like construe these things in the wrong way. Like any sort of, because, the song, when you play stuff in Trombone Champ, it always sounds badly.
Yeah.
So I was always concerned. I was like, ooh, are people going to think this might be like vaguely anti-Semitic? Like if they see a clip of someone like butchering Hava Nagila, like, is that bad? The same is true of some of the anthems too. At launch, all we have is like the American National Anthem and God Save the Queen and Oh Canada. So it's not that bad, but it was always something I was a little concerned about. Obviously, like I'm not intending to mock any of the songs. Like a lot, it's kind of the opposite. Like all the songs I put in are songs that I love. And like, I'm just like, this would be really fun to hear.
And the same with the sort of the backgrounds and the art assets and everything else. I remember watching the credits for the game and seeing that most of the background elements were pulled from like public archives of the New York Public Library. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of them are, just because they have an amazing resource. And if you go to like New York Public Library Digital Archives or something, they have this incredible resource of these like I guess they have all this old artwork and stuff that they scanned in. And there's a big like public domain checkbox. You could just like check it if you want looking at the public domain. And since a lot of the songs in the game are like really old songs, like hundreds of years old or so.
Yeah.
If you just like type in the song title, sometimes you actually find like really beautiful scans of like the old sheet music and stuff, or like old pamphlets that contain the music, or just, anything that's related to it. But a lot of the songs are kind of like old timey, like Take Me Out to the Ball Game is, you think of it as like a classic Americana song.
Yeah.
So I think it also just kind of fits to see that kind of old artwork associated with it a little bit, And the trombone's an old instrument. Like, it's been around for a while, presumably. Actually, I don't know.
It has. I now realize I should have a better knowledge of the history of the trombone. Certainly prepared for today.
Well, maybe I should too. I don't know.
I mean, before valves were created for brass instruments, for the longest time, all the horns were whatever key they were, and you would actually change out the slides so that you would change the length of the piping so that, you would play the horn in G. Well, I need to play it in D now, so I need to put in a different slide on it. So the notion of a movable slide is probably pretty rudimentary and straightforward there.
It makes sense, yeah. It's like before they figured out that you could make valves, it's like, let's just have this tube that you move back and forth.
I mean, really, we're all just loud tubes, and brass is just the louder tube in front of the loud tube that is us.
I mean, if it works for the Blue Man Group, it works for me.
You're here.
So
That's true.
Exactly. Oh man, Blue Man Group songs would be fun on Trombone Champ and ridiculous. Like some of the the bigger like brass sounding stuff that they do would be wild.
Yeah, remember they had this thing with this big PVC pipe that they would like move in and out, kind of like a trombone slide, and it actually was pretty cool.
Yeah, that show is always entertaining endlessly.
Now, most of the songs are public domain, and I think that does add to its charm because it all adds to the identity of the game, I think. You did have a track that was composed by Max Tundra specifically for the game. How did that come about? Yeah,
so as you mentioned, like a lot of stuff is public domain. I also wanted to have some electronic stuff because it's also a rhythm game, and like for some reason rhythm games just run so electronic. Like DDR is like nothing but electronic music, basically. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted some stuff that was kind of evocative of DDR and other music games. The Max Tundra thing was just started as a favor exchange. Like I've always been a fan of his for a long time. And I followed him on Twitter, just under my personal account, not even under the Holy Wow account. And he posted a tweet like years ago where he was like trying to find a high-res version of this poster that he found. Actually, I think it's right behind me. It's this cat one.
Oh, nice.
Sick.
I made that. That's like my copy of the poster. He had this like this blurry JPEG of this poster, and he was looking for a higher quality version. And I basically offered on Twitter, I was like, hey, I'll make a high quality version of this for you if you make a song for this trombone game I'm working on. And he agreed on Twitter. And so then I did some research. I found like higher res ones, and like I traced it out painstakingly in Illustrator. Like this whole thing behind, like, I don't know, I want to take it off the wall and show it to you, but there's like a lot of line work in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of recreated it in Illustrator, like stroke for stroke, so it could be like resized up perfectly. And then I printed out in like this, and I spared no expense. I printed out in like the nicest paper. Went to like a real printer. It came out really, like the full size one is like enormous and it's beautiful. I think it's in his kitchen.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then he made a track, and then it ended up in the final game, which is awesome. So he's the only like licensed or like real musician we have in the game. There's a few other electronic tracks I just kind of threw together myself, just because I wanted a few of them too. But he's the only like outside artist at launch. He's a super nice guy, and I love his stuff, and you should listen to it.
Yeah. I've definitely started checking out Max Tundra tracks because of this, and it reminds me of the same sort of feeling I had when I first listened to Dan Deacon when I was in college, and I'm very much enjoying myself. So thank you for putting him out there into the world.
Yeah, no, he deserves it. He has he only has like 3 main LPs. Like Some Best Friend You Turned Out to Be, Mastered by God at the Exchange, and then Parallax Air Beheads You. Mm-hmm. The first one is more, I don't know, I don't want to talk about it too much, but the first one feels like a little more abstract electronic. The second one is like more pop music, but in a really weird variety of genres. Like some songs aren't even electronic, it's just like guitars and stuff. Huh. That one's really interesting. I love that one. And then the third one is like very much like hyper pop electronic and like really highly produced, and all the stuff is like really maximal. Like he spends a lot of time on each track. They're all really fun though. Yeah.
Nice. You did mention that you composed a few tracks for Trombone Champ so that there could be a ska song, and there was a couple of others there more in the vein of things. But you also composed a few songs for another game soundtrack, for Skatebird. Yeah.
So Meg Fox, who's I don't know what her role is there. I think she's like the main person. We both came from the Something Awful forums, actually.
Oh, that role.
Yeah, and nice. She used to be a moderator in the game subforum. And actually, some of the very, very first games I ever made, like Flash games, were for these Something Awful game jams.
Yeah.
They still do have these game jams, but I think, Something Awful used to be a lot bigger.
It's been a long time since I've checked in on Something Awful.
Yeah, I still go, but only to like a few select threads. It's changed a lot. It's actually pretty good now. Like it's had its ups and downs.
Of course.
But she used to moderate the game sub forum, and she was like moderator when I was making some of like our first Flash games, actually.
Wow.
And then she made games too. They made like a Cat in a Hot Tin Roof and a bunch of others. Skatebird was probably the one that got the most publicity and stuff. And yeah, I do games, but I'm also like a big music guy. And I would probably be equally happy like just doing music instead of doing games, And even before Trombone Champ blew up kind of, I didn't think it was possible, but I'd be like, hey, it'd be awesome to make a living like just doing music for games. Like that would be a dream job, you know. And so I knew she was doing skateboard, and we've you know like direct messaged each other and stuff. So I just offered. I was like, hey, like I know these skating games are so like soundtrack driven. Like I would love to make like 5 video gamey birdie songs for skateboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she agreed. So I just made 5 songs and just gave them to her. Like
Yeah.
basically as a
Punk
favor.
bird, surf bird, thrash bird, all the.
It was really fun because skateboarding games are certain genres of music come to mind so strongly. You know, like you do think of like that surf music a bit, but then there's always ska. There's always like kind of 90s punk. I feel like is associated with it.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Skater punk.
Yeah.
It's called, I mean, it's there in the name.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where like when you hear the concept, it's like, you know, music for a skateboarding game that's supposed to be a little funnier. Like the music just instantly comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, I've just walked into a PacSun. Okay.
Yeah.
That's such a hardcore reference, but as someone who grew up in malls and like on Staten Island, like I just instantly I can hear that store.
I worked at the Hot Topic at Willowbrook Mall for several years. Like I
think in my mall the Hot Topic was next to the PacSun. Just
we were across from the Zoomies, and there was nowhere to stand at the triangulation of PacSun, Zoomies, and Hot Topic.
Yeah.
And I think that was by design because that would have given the scene kids too much power.
It's a real like Devil's Crossroads kind of a thing.
Yeah.
What's Zoomies? I've never heard of Zoomies before.
Zoomies is another one that, God, I don't know what their like original brand identity is, but it's definitely another one where they sell tons of skateboard stuff. I think they sell skate decks in some of the shops. Like it's a skate shop.
Yeah.
Oh, Zoomies. I understand that.
Not to be confused with Azumi, the hibachi steakhouse that's on Route 23 near the Willowbrook Mall. But that's for my Jersey kids.
I don't know that one. Zoomies.
That's fine.
I use the word zoomy when our cats have a lot of energy. Have you heard of that phrase?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If it's like 1 a.m. and the cats suddenly get a burst of energy and they start sprinting back and forth, you say they got the zoomies.
Oh yeah.
This is how I find out from someone yelling at me on the internet that I've been saying the name of this shop wrong the whole time. It's Zoomies. You cat.
It is spelled pretty weird.
Yeah,
Zumiez, if I recall correctly.
I have a question for Kam. So I'm curious, like I know you love rhythm games. You stream Clone Hero all the time. They're some of my favorite streams because they're completely unhinged. Because you will take literally anything and play guitar on it, which is the best part. But what drew you to Trombone Champ? Is it just you saw this wacky thing and were like, this is my aesthetic, I have to play it?
I think it's a lot of reasons. So whenever trailers for this first started, kind of just, like you said, blowing up out of nowhere, like 7 people sent it to me. And they're like, hey, you should probably check this out. And I'm like, hey, you're probably right. I was like super, super active in a lot of like traditional music stuff in college. Did a lot of like marching band, wind ensemble kind of stuff.
My man.
Was gonna be a music teacher at some point before I realized that, hey, I probably shouldn't be teaching anybody anything. But the thing that I think is really cool about it is that I've never seen a rhythm game that it's just as fun to learn how to play it than it is to be really good at it. Sometimes it's even more fun. Like I felt like as I was kind of getting better at it, and because I ended up just like buying it, started playing it, and then just like saw credits that entire evening, which had a great time. I never really felt like I was not having a blast. Like the worse I was doing, kind of the better it was. Like I felt like I was like, I wanted to screw up a little bit more than I actually was, which was interesting. Because, you think like rhythm game players, you think, highly technical, you got to like have everything down to like that perfect frame, like exactly on like the center of the beat kind of a thing. But like you guys were kind of mentioning, I think the soundtrack also did a whole lot coming with that traditional sitting in a concert band playing, town festivals around the 4th of July kind of energy. It was neat that this entire game felt like it spoke to my like kind of past self in being like super, super into like traditional music. I know like clips of this game were just an absolute huge hit with all of my music teacher friends because they thought it was the funniest thing in the world that you could play also Sprach Zarathustra and just like absolutely completely butcher it, which is actually the funniest thing in the world.
That is the Brass Kid experience right there.
Correct. Yeah. There is just almost nothing funnier to me than playing an instrument badly, but like with the confidence that you don't care, and the fact that that's kind of all this game is about is really incredible.
No, thank you. It's high praise. I'm glad you enjoy it. I was always kind of intimidated by what real music game fans would think, because again, like this is mainly like this is built as a hobby, like we're not real programmers, and I feel like the technical aspect is probably the weakest thing, because in fact, we've gotten the most feedback about stuff like that, like people who are really into rhythm games, like just reducing the latency. It's like we're looking into like different audio drivers and stuff. It's actually a little more complex than we thought it might be. I was always concerned that people who are super rhythm game guys would like not enjoy it, because they would just be so used to being able to like nail these timings and get like perfect scores. And this game is like, the scoring is kind of really different than most rhythm games, and gamers in general like really often like need to min-max everything,
Yeah, of course.
Like, gamers need to get every achievement. They need to like get, as soon as there's an S score available, like they have to see the S in every track, or else they're going to be not happy. So I was like, ooh, are those people going to be really angry at this game? Because like a lot of these tracks are probably impossible to finish.
Yeah, I remember getting I got the S rank on like probably technically like the 4 easiest tracks in the game, and like did enough to do the baboon story stuff, which that was wild, by the way.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I got questions.
Yeah,
first time baboons are mentioned in the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Achievement.
Yeah, I remember getting those S ranks and like trying like to improve my score and like get that higher rank on some of the other stuff, but like at a certain point I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good with a B on this one. I don't really like feel like I need to do it like any better, because I'm just having a great time.
Yeah.
How good does my grade need to really be at Stars and Stripes forever?
Right, exactly.
I love that track. Yeah,
that track's great. Also, I think it is the funniest thing in the world that you are just having the trombone play the melody, just because that's what everybody knows. I think that is a perfect decision, and congratulations on that.
Thanks. Well, a lot of times with these songs, it's like there's a limited range in the notes that the trombone can play, Yeah. So a lot of them, I just have like this source music. Sometimes I kind of like rearrange it myself, but in a few of the tracks, like there was like a source audio file I was able to just like drop notes on top of. So sometimes like the trombone jumps between like the melody and kind of like a harmony. It's all just like what feels fun and kind of fits within that range of notes, because it also wouldn't be fun if you were just playing nothing but the backing track the whole time.
Right. Yeah. Like I've always thought this about like, I still play like, obviously I play like a lot of Guitar Hero still. And like Clone Hero is this, big free thing that is just like pretty much entirely community run, where people just have just a ton of tracks and everything.
Ooh,
and
I haven't heard of that one.
I think, it's really
very
cool. It's kind of the best that game has ever been, which is funny because it is like entirely just a labor of love and not like in the public consciousness at all.
Does that use like the guitar controller or something?
Yeah. You just like, it's all like through PC. You can also just play with a keyboard. They have like full drum support now too, which is really cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's a lot more fun to just play the melody of things that rather than like being really particular about, well, I have to play the guitar part, even though the guitar part is just like a bunch of sustained notes for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I think it'd be incredibly funny if there was like just one track that was you are actually playing the trombone part, and it's like the cello part to Pachelbel's Canon to psych people out.
Yeah, I did want to have more like trolley tracks kind of, where like it's one song I really wanted to have was, John Cage's 433.
433, yes.
Yeah.
I actually really wanted to have that in the game.
That's a really good idea.
And I tried really hard, but that was actually really tricky because it's actually not in the public domain, believe it or not, even though it's there's kind of no music there.
Yeah.
Because he's still, is he still alive?
No. He passed away a little while ago. He was born, I want to say 105 years ago. I only know this because I did backstage work for a Juilliard concert of his 100th birthday.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about highfalutin, high-minded concepts. Let's talk later. It was wild.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have that in the game, but as I mentioned, it's not public domain. You're right, he's not alive, sorry. But there is still like a John Cage Foundation. So I actually had like 20 emails back and forth with them trying to see if I can get it in the game and like if it would be legal and if I would owe any fees or anything. But it kind of went nowhere because I think like I couldn't, I don't know, I was having trouble describing what it would be like in the game,
Yeah.
They kept forwarding me to like the people who own the rights to the sheet music because in the game it's kind of like a musical track is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Then I told him, I was like, I'm not really putting sheet music in the game. It's just like, I do have the notes in the game, but there'd be no notes. So like, does that count as sheet music? I don't. So we went back and forth. It didn't go anywhere, unfortunately, because I really wanted to have that. But maybe that's for the best, because like I'm not sure how many people know of 433, and
It's
I probably would have just gotten like 600 emails like, this track is bugged, it didn't work on my machine.
I don't understand.
Fix it, please.
Then there's a follow-up track that is just all of those emails somehow playing in the background.
Call that one 434.
Yeah.
I like the idea of 434, and it's a parody of 433.
Yeah.
I wanted to have 99 bottles of beer, and I thought it'd actually be fun to have all 99.
Oh man.
But then I realized that actually would take like 30 minutes.
You put that in as nightmare mode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like the
but-
expert mode.
Yeah, if y'all just like stealthily patch that in, that's absolutely hysterical.
We've started with 3 bottles of beer. We've added 5 more. Eventually getting to 99.
Just slowly over time extend the track.
That actually might put me at risk of like, people might get carpal tunnel from playing
sure,
99 bottles, and might send people to the hospital. So maybe that one.
We don't want
maybe
that.
not.
We don't want injury.
Much like drinking actual 99 bottles of beer. So
Well, for me, actually, it's funny. 99 bottles is just like a technical thing because, again, it's like a 30-minute track. So then I actually made a MIDI of it, but I was like, oh man, it's like, this could be like 100 megabytes to load this. Just to load this one track. And then like I have this level editor built into the game, and I was like, oh man, like this is it's gonna have to load like 10,000 notes to play this stupid thing. So then I was thinking, like, can I like procedurally generate this one track?
Are you able to change the tempo on it? Like,
No, that's maybe in the future I want to, but at the moment the technology is actually surprisingly limited in the game.
that makes sense. Yeah, because there's also that like meme of, every time beer is said or every bottle it gets faster. So by like you are just smearing by bottle 40.
Yeah, that's one big limitation of the game at the moment. The tempo, like behind the scenes, the way it works is it basically moves the track based on the playhead.
Yeah.
So like it's just reading the current time position of the track and adjusting the whole the batch of notes based on that. So because of that, it's actually really hard to hack in tempo changes. Although I really want that. For Ave Nagila, I felt that actually, because Ave Nagila is really, you need to speed that up.
Yeah, it's meant to speed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't speed it up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. But I do want to go back to baboons for a second, because
yeah, let's talk about that.
Back to baboons.
Can we talk about the baboons?
there's clearly a love of this instrument and a love of the joy and silliness of this instrument from the get. But you could have just made a rhythm game, but you didn't. You made a story mode about becoming the trombone champ. And so I'm curious, was that kind of humor really important from the beginning?
It's hard to say. The idea definitely evolved over time. I think when I first imagined the game, I did not imagine the storyline stuff. Like part of the reason I wanted to make this game is because I thought it would be quick to make. It seemed like an achievable concept I could do pretty fast. Because I was thinking like, all I need is 20 to 30 songs. That's it. So I could pump this out in 6 months. But then as I spent more time on it, like I just had this urge to add more to it. Especially since I didn't really have like a deadline. I was kind of working on it as a hobby. So I was like, I could add more fun stuff if I want to. For me, it was just about extending the playtime and keeping the players hooked for longer. Because I realized, like, if the game launched at 25 songs, a lot of players would be able to just, like, hop in, play all the songs in, like, 40 minutes, and then that'd be it. They'd have experienced, like, 100% of the content that the game had to offer. And I thought that, people might find that really disappointing unless I had, like, 100 songs in there from the get-go, but that would be a tremendous lift. So just the first idea was just to add this collectible card section to the game where you could just spend your points on cards. And that was all I had in mind. I was like, then players can hop back and forth, and like they have a reason to come back and play tracks multiple times, and it's fun to collect all 50.
Yeah.
And then I just thought it'd be fun to include some hidden storyline in there too. Because, Jeff, you mentioned earlier I made a previous game called Icarus Proud Bottom Teaches Typing. And that has kind of a similar story where it starts off as like a lighthearted typing game, and like it's like ostensibly teaching you how to type. But then as you play, like you kind of uncover this like dark storyline behind the scenes, and it becomes like more and more obvious as you play. So I kind of do the same thing with this, actually. We're just like, the more you play and the more you mess with the menus and stuff, the more stuff you find, The baboons came, The baboons came from, I don't really remember where they came from. There was a point.
They were always there.
Primordial baboons.
So much in the game just comes from words that I thought were funny, basically. And nothing, that's like the origin.
is that why there is a very weird focus on hot dogs? Because I do think that is hilarious.
Yeah, that too. There was a point where I was just like, any idea that I think is funny, I'll just put it in. I think it was when I was writing those cards. I was like, it would be. I thought it would just be funny if, like, on the Mozart card, it said he could eat like 60 hot dogs.
Yeah, that absolutely killed me. That was so funny.
If I said I didn't spend at least 20 minutes trying to calculate the hot dog power of all of the cards based on what it said, I'd be a liar.
Yeah.
It became, I just let myself run with these running jokes where, like, once I had hot dogs in one card, I was like, what if, like, half of the cards mention hot dogs for like, no reason? What if, like, literally every card mentions how many hot dogs they can eat? And then I allowed that to become an actual mechanic in the game. Like, to reach the ending, you need to have a certain number of hot dog cards. Mm-hmm. But the baboons, it's the baboons. Let's talk about the baboons. Early in the game, I actually was planning on having, like, a difficulty setting, like easy, medium, hard for each track. Mm-hmm. I took that out because I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how to implement it. I didn't want to just have, like, a slow version of each song, because then it just sounds crappier. You know, like, a lot of these songs are just really boring, played at half speed. Mm. But I knew that I wanted the easy mode to be called Baby, and I wanted the hard mode to be called Bonkers. I was like, so Baby will be easy, Bonkers will be hard. And I was really struggling trying to think of a word for medium. And since it was Baby and Bonkers, I was like, I need what's a B word that means, like, medium or default? I couldn't think of anything. And for some reason, I just thought baboons would be really funny to have as, like, the default difficulty for, like, seemingly no reason. So the difficulties would be, like, Baby, Baboon, and Bonkers. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a difficulty screen still, like, hidden in the game code, but, you know, I came up with that name. And again, I just let myself run with it. I was like, so if baboon is the name of the default difficulty, what if, like, there's baboons just, like, inserted in other parts of the game for seemingly no reason, you know, like, just as it makes no sense as a medium difficulty name. Mm-hmm. And then much later, I came up with the idea to have this hidden storyline be, like, really Dark Souls inspired. It's like, if you play Dark Souls, it's like, it obviously nods to it, which is, like, the mysticism and the abstractness. And I was just like, ooh, like, that has those primordial serpents. It needs to be a primordial baboon. That was, like, my aha moment. I was like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, the tone of that absolutely nailed it. Because every single, like, character you run across just treats it like it is the most serious thing in the world, and that's always going to be hilarious to me.
Yeah, that's a fundamental part of the humor. It's just, like, the game is so stupid and funny and dumb, but then like, so to have it be a Dark Souls inspired storyline is funny because, like, I love Dark Souls, but it has no humor. It's a humorless franchise.
Totally,
you know, it's like
And just a little bit of absurdity in a humorless thing is incredible.
Yeah, there's this wink and nod that's just really fun when something takes itself too seriously and obviously shouldn't. And in those, like, dramatic moments, it's just like, oh, yeah, this is a gag. And it knows it's a gag, and it's great. And it's like, there are moments, especially, like, even in Elden Ring, which I played the shit out of earlier this year, like, that I'm staring down the barrel of, like, dialogue and going, really? No chuckle. There's no wink and nod. Like, some of this is ridiculous. Okay, we're just gonna keep leaning in to the seriousness. Okay, great, fine, sure, whatever. And I like the idea of a rhythm game with a story mode, goofy or not. Like, some of my favorite moments in Fuser and in the Rock Band games is, like, these career modes or these story modes, and the idea that the career mode in this game is literally you trying to uncover this deep, dark mystery of the trombone and become the trombone champ is just, I think, is absolutely chef's kiss.
Yeah, thanks. And another part of it too is, like, I knew that, again, as, like, a hobby project, it wouldn't stand up to quote unquote real rhythm games. Right. You know, like a game like DDR, which has, like, 10,000 songs now, and, you know, the mechanics are perfect, like, the controls are perfect. I was like, since this is a goofier music game, like, I can't have it be 100% about the music, you know, because it's kind of sloppy, it's kind of messy, and, like, that's the point, you know.
Much like people's perception of the trombone.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I every trombone player I've ever met has always said, like, yeah, I mean, this is close enough to a B flat. It's fine. you know, we're in the wheelhouse. You just kind of guess really well at trombone, and, you know. Does
it sound good? Then stop asking questions.
It's a hard instrument. I bought like, kind of halfway through making the game, I bought a P-bone.
Yes.
A big plastic trombone.
Hell yeah.
The colored trombones definitely made me think of P-bone. So
yeah, same.
I wanted some sort of physical reference because, like, in the first trailer, the characters hold the trombone completely wrong. Like, their hands are in the wrong spot. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of comments about that. Like, that's not how you hold it. So I said, oh man, I should buy a trombone just so I know where your hands go, you know. It actually did help just like to get the feel of it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I thought I'd try to learn it because I played saxophone and stuff, but trombone's 10,000 times harder. And also, I live in an apartment, so
Right.
I don't. It was like,
And Yamaha makes those like brass mutes, but dang, I play the trumpet, and that thing is already massive. I can only imagine how big and expensive cramming one of those in a trombone bell must be. So
yeah.
it's very funny also what, like, okay, there's so many absurd things within this game, and yet it's the kind of like, oh, they're holding the trombone wrong. What?
Yeah.
What surprising comments like that, where did you expect people to have no suspension of belief, and vice versa?
Hard to say. I thought there'd be just a lot more negative feedback, to be honest, actually. I mean, you know, of course, like, it's if you look on Steam, it's overwhelmingly positive, which is awesome. I'm really happy about that.
That's awesome.
As I kind of mentioned before, I thought like a lot of rhythm game fans would have more gripes about like the way the scoring works and just like the fact that technically it's not quite as like precise yet as like, you know, a real rhythm game by like Namco would be or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought we'd get a lot more negative feedback from real trombone players, actually. I was a little concerned about that. Just because I realized that the game is 100% unrealistic, where like all you do is move the slide. Like out is the lowest note and in is the highest note.
Yeah.
And I know that in the, you know, for real trombone, like you have these partials. Like you have to blow into the mouthpiece differently. And so really the slide position isn't everything.
No work for embouchure or anything like that. And
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be so much less fun.
Oh, for sure.
And I have gotten a few emails, but not many, of people recommending stuff like that. Like you should have a mode where there are 4 partials, but I just don't know how that would actually translate to gameplay. It'd be like impossible to communicate visually, I think. You know, it would also be 1,000 times harder for the player.
Yeah.
But I was expecting a lot more of that, actually. Because the game certainly, I mean, I don't think it's too mean towards trombones or trombonists. Some of the factoids are actually a little pointed. I feel a little self-conscious now about those. But
the trumpet one I did think was really funny as
the
a trumpet player.
Trump.
So that was
Yeah, no,
that does track. Yeah,
made me so happy.
Yeah.
I would like, well, in a game about the trombone, you have to like slam the trumpet.
Sure.
It's like, come on, what is this?
Trumpets deserve it.
Yeah, no, we've earned every single bit of that criticism.
This is true. Although my favorite out of all of them, the one that like made me absolutely like that ugly like kind of laugh, was the trombone and the French horn are not related. They're just good friends.
That was really funny.
For some reason, that just got me.
I have a lot of those facts. I need to write more of them actually, because it's I think there's like 80 or something, but you go through those pretty fast.
Yeah.
That idea is also basically taken from a previous game. The Icarus Prod Bottom Teaches Typing had the same thing.
Yeah.
Like
when we were visiting, I definitely was like, ooh, yeah, I see the lineage.
And actually some of the jokes are literally recycled from that game. I think like that game, the first factoid is like the average keyboard contains 2 to 4 spiders.
Yep. Oh, yes.
The spiders one.
Yeah.
Great.
That's the first factoid I got playing Trombone Champ was. And I was just like, oh, great. Awesome. Love it.
And that's just playing on that like that thing that kids say about how like you swallow 10 spiders per year in your sleep, which is just total BS.
Yeah. I think that was actually originally created to test how far bad information can travel.
Turns out real far. We learned that over the last 3 or 4 years.
It is really funny like saying that though, but I feel like in like high school and early college, like just so many trombone players were like, yeah, man, I opened up my trombone and there were so many spiders in it, dude. Like there's
it's a real thing?
They're like, I don't know if it's a real thing. It could just be them just being like, yo, I've got this cool story. Give me attention kind of a thing.
It's just a weird coincidence on things. And just with the trombonist,
Yeah, but like I feel like every band kid has those horror stories that they've like heard of, like, yo, I heard so and so over spring break found bugs in their clarinet or whatever. Like it worked like in a way that I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, this worked. It was great.
It's kind of nightmarish, just the idea of, you know, because it's like in your mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. Thinking it's full of bugs.
Yeah.
This is why reed instruments always scared me. It's just like, what if the wood is just mushy? I mean, it gets kind of mushy because you put it in your mouth and the whole point and everything else, but just, I don't know.
Yeah. It's freaking reeds, man. I used to play saxophone.
Yeah.
And like those reeds are like your nightmare, you know?
Once I learned the process that like bassoonists and oboists go through to like make and maintain double reeds, I was just like, you fuckers are insane.
Yeah.
What? Fine.
It's absolutely bonkers, to steal a term here. But yeah.
And also like the reeds, there's that like progression of read difficulty, where, you know, when you're a noob, you play on like the 2 or whatever.
Yep.
But then like real professionals playing 4, and it's like a much stiffer read and it actually sounds good, you know? So, yeah.
Brass does similar things with the cups of the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Really? I had no idea. Although I did see someone post a photo of like a flugaphone or something. And I noticed it had this like enormous mouthpiece that was like the size of like a mug. I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, there's numbers and letters that go along with the shallowness or depth or the thickness and everything else. And so
and to this day, I do think, and this is obviously not true, but I do think that like most like professional brass players are just fucking with me when there's like, yeah, I think you should really play on like this kind of a mouthpiece. It'd be really good for your sound. I'm like, okay. And then I just keep playing on my normal one. It's fine, you know?
I play on a 7C. Fight me, nerds.
Right, absolutely. I think I've changed mouthpieces once, and it like took me a while to get used to. But then after that, I'm like, this is just the same thing. What am I doing here? Like,
I want to call attention to something awesome on the website trombonechamp.com if you want more info.
Oh Lord, I threw that together real fast. So
well, no, you do mention that Mac version is being researched, but you also say that further ports are possible but not planned. I'm just curious if you've even thought about for a sec touch controls with this and how cool that would be, like on the Switch and stuff. Like, I feel like this game is kind of screaming for, or like a mobile phone, like screaming for those kind of like that cool interaction with this. But do you think that could make it too good, like make it too easy to hit the notes with that control?
There are certain interfaces where it's too easy,
right?
Like my wife Jackie, who actually she helped with a lot of the artwork in the game, like a lot of the 2D artwork she helped with, and a lot of the card stuff.
Nice.
She has like one of these Surface Pro laptops, like a Microsoft one, and that has a touchscreen built into the laptop.
Right.
Yeah. And so like she realized that like if you set the controls to like not invert, you could just like touch the screen, and it is actually too easy, kind of, because like you just like touch the dots as they come up, and then that's it, and it works perfectly. So there is a potential in that. I feel like I would definitely love to look into that stuff, though, regardless. I would just need to play with the controls to make it a little slipperier, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Add a slide grease mechanic.
Yeah, something. People have, you know, actually, there's this breath mechanic in the game, which is kind of pointless. People have mentioned this. If you hold a note for too long, you can run out of breath.
Yeah.
But you rarely do. Like I put that in the game early, actually, because it was coded in a different way, and it was actually... In early versions, it was possible just to play a note forever and get really high scores easily. So I made this breath mechanic so you couldn't just like hold the notes down. People have mentioned like it would be fun to have a spit valve mechanic or something built in.
Yeah, a
So that can make it a little
randomizer
harder.
just messes with the notes.
Yeah, that can make it harder if like they need to blast a spit valve for now and then or something.
yeah.
But definitely like, I mean, Switch. I was always thinking about the Switch actually,
Sure,
because it comes with those 2 Joy-Cons built in, and like, those actually have pretty good gyro controls.
Yeah. That would be. I hadn't thought of that. I was just thinking because I play in handheld mode a lot, but I hadn't even thought about like getting back to the Wii Music roots, right? And like just using the hand. Oh, that would actually be really cool.
And I think the Joy-Cons have pretty good motion tracking too.
Yeah.
They do.
They do, yeah.
What made me think of that was we got that Ring Fit game, the big plastic ring. And in the loading screen of that game or something, or like the first screen, you just see the Joy-Cons kind of floating in 3D space. And if you move them around, like they move on screen.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that and realizing that it tracks the motion really, really well, like much better than you'd expect in like 3 dimensions. So I could probably do it pretty well with that. And actually there is a bunch of like code in the game. It's all commented out, but like I was trying it with like Xbox controllers and stuff just to see how it would feel with sticks. Sticks are kind of weird. I need to spend some time trying to figure out how to do it best, because like there's too much range. There's too large of a range of notes to do just with like a single stick.
Yeah.
So that'll take some finagling, but like definitely like touch, gyro controls, like motion controls, all those has a lot of potential.
Yeah. I mean,
Anything but Pro Controller support, I think is very in line with the identity.
I mean, so and the PS5 controllers don't they have motion in them? Or no?
I think they do.
And they have the touchpad too on the front. So like, I mean,
they do, yeah.
And the programmable resistance for the shoulder buttons.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, right. You can just...
Actually, you can do some fun stuff with Rumble.
Yeah.
A bunch of companies have reached out to us. There's some company that does haptic stuff. Like all they do is haptic stuff.
Nice.
And they sell this glove. And like they were like some of the first people to email us. Like they wanted us to make some sort of patch or something that would like use the haptic glove or something.
Dang.
That's
but
awesome.
with controllers, that'd be really fun. Just you could have it vibrate at different frequencies based on the note.
Yeah,
or
that
something.
would rule actually.
That would be
The Xbox controller doesn't have gyro.
no
Gyro.
It's
I said gyro like a sandwich.
Gyro.
stupid.
Gyro controls.
It doesn't have gyro controls. Stupid Microsoft. Like, I actually bought an Xbox One controller because I just wanted to hook it up to the PC and play with the gyro.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hooked it up to the PC, and I spent like a full night trying to get the gyro to work. And then I Googled it, and like, does this controller have gyro?
Nope.
It doesn't.
Nope, it's the only one.
But it's funny because like in the game editor, like I didn't get an error message. It just kept like showing a big 0 for the gyro.
Oh, geez.
So I was like, God damn it, why can't I get it to work?
That's really funny.
So Xbox might be a little trickier. Because I think, again, if you need to use sticks, it's going to be difficult to make that feel good.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of controllers and things, as of the time that we are recording this episode, the game's been out for what, 3 weeks? Less than a month? Definitely less than a month.
not long. Yeah.
People have already been making actual trombone controllers for this, in addition to making their own custom tracks and everything else. Has anyone reached out to you about like, hey, how do we implement this more officially? Or like, what has that been like?
No one has actually reached out, like, offering to make like a mass-produced thing.
Yeah, partner with P-Bone. There we go. Just put that.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the articles, they did reach out to that guy, and he was super excited by it. I think it's a British company, and like he had a quote in it. He was like, "This is great. I love it." Because I think
right.
his mind,
Love it.
the game. I know a few of the people who are making stuff actually. We have arcade cabinet in a bar called Wonderville in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, I love Wonderville. Yeah, great place.
Yeah. We have a 2-player typing cabinet there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's us. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Same. That's us. It's 2 keyboards on an arcade cabinet. And so we know the guy who runs that bar. His name is Mark, and he does a lot of hardware stuff. He's like really smart and has like a 3D printer and like knows how to do all the actual hardware.
And so Mark like largely spearheaded the making that cabinet.
No, actually that cabinet I just kind of made a while ago. Or my wife and I made it a while ago because Indiecade East came through New York. And somehow like we got in touch with them. And so we actually had that on display at Indiecade East. It was at the Museum of the Moving Image. And then that cabinet just sat in our apartment for like 3 years, just kind of gathering dust. And that was before Wonderville opened. And then like Wonderville opened and we were going to reach out to them, but then they reached out to us like right before we did. And we just arranged to have it there. That's awesome. So we made that cabinet. But anyways, that guy, Mark, who runs Wonderville, he's working on something just as a hobby. He's part of this game group called like Death by Audio Arcade.
Oh yeah, sure.
They've been in Brooklyn for a while. They're doing stuff. And then there's another guy who I don't know if he's like head of the indie division or something for Death by Audio, but he's also making like a controller. So I know some of these people. And actually we're planning on having some sort of like launch party for the game, maybe October 19th at Wonderville.
Oh, nice. Oh, well, have to come.
And I think they want to have a tournament using one of their controllers.
That's really cool.
And actually I am, one of the things I'm working on right now is just hacking in more control methods for the game.
Nice.
Because right now, like the way it's coded, to make a long story short, like it just kind of reads the cursor position on screen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not really reading the mouse motion, it's just reading the mouse position. So because of that, I can't really lower the sensitivity. So actually that's one problem. Like a lot of the people with controllers, like it's a very small range of motion, So I'm hacking in some stuff into the game to allow it so like it reads the relative mouse position, which should make the physical controllers work a lot better. Because then you'll be able to turn the sensitivity way down until like you can use the full slide,
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
hopefully soon. Hopefully really soon.
I'm just imagining an arcade cabinet that like, you remember the Silent Scope games?
Yeah.
You've got like a trombone on that. There's like a button for blowing so then people aren't just putting their mouths on it. Like it's just basically that on a swivel.
That would be amazing.
That was actually my concept for the game that was my first idea for the game. Before I had any concept of it as like a PC game with a mouse, like my very, very first mental picture was like exactly what you said, like an arcade cabinet with the big thing. I think it was when I was doing that typing cabinet. I was in like the arcade mindset, and I was like, ooh, it'd be really fun to have like a big rubber thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I saw that anywhere, I would drop literally whatever I'm doing to go check that out.
Yeah, that's what
Just,
draws
like,
people
on
in at the
concept,
arcade. Like, what can you, like, as somebody who has several DDR pads at home and does his best, like, yeah, there's something about what you can do in an arcade and the crap that you can't fit into your New York City apartment.
Yeah.
I would love for like a Japanese arcade manufacturer to like reach out to me and like turn it into like a real
That would be
cabinet
really
that's,
cool.
like,
Yeah.
Really dope.
that's like distributed throughout Japan and stuff. Maybe here too.
Maybe we get a Trombone Freaks finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally answering all of my prayers. And to that extent, would you continue going for public domain tracks, or It was interesting when you brought up trying to look at John Cage's music, the licensing for this being sheet music versus recorded music, because you're sort of creating the backing tracks. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have plans and dreams of people being like, here, let's work together, and here's, another Max Tundra situation, I suppose?
Yeah, it's actually a really delicate balance. I think we're definitely going to start to license some music. We're realizing we need to be a little careful with it. First of all, just because this is like we're mostly hobbyists and we're turning this into our jobs now, but so we're not even like the legality and the contract side of it we have no familiarity with. But also, like, I'm starting to realize that there is a lot of the game's charm comes from the type of music that's in there. And like, if I did suddenly drop in like 20 legitimately cool songs, like real songs, like from real bands that people want to hear, it actually kind of diminishes the game's charm a little bit, if you know what I mean. So I'm realizing I need to strike a balance between actually good licensed music and the silly public domain, or not public domain, but just like classic stuff, So
I feel like if you get big names to agree to basically do what Max did and make a track for your game, so it's a recognizable artist. You don't know this song. It's their Trombone Champ track.
Yeah.
That could be a lot of fun.
I mean, like, I love working with Max Tundra, and actually he might help with some other music too. His stuff is perfect because it's just like that fun electronic stuff, which I think hits the DDR vibe perfectly. We're talking like too with trying to reach out to some like brass bands and stuff to get their stuff.
Oh, really cool.
The risk is like when it's legitimately cool music.
Yeah.
That like it's hard. I need to make sure I don't break the tone of the game. If you know what I mean.
Like you got to find something that almost has like the final countdown feel to it. Like suitably epic, it's recognizable, and people are gonna love. Because also Sparks Zarathustra is like that kind of thing, where it's like let's get really epic, and it sucks.
Yeah,
we suck. This is great.
Sometimes it's just fun to butcher songs,
Yeah.
This lets us do that.
Yeah, that's not something that the other rhythm games really let you do, right? Like, well, that's not true. So in Fuser...
Okay, well, yeah.
Friends of mine would, like, do really cursed mix of songs where, like, it would just be all-star vocals, nothing else, or, like, like the whistling from All-Star and something else. Like, games that let you break it and make it sound bad on purpose are hilarious and fun, and I love that Trombone Champ leans into that lineage of, like, this is a fun game, and you can sound good, but that's not the point. The point is to goof and be fun and be silly.
Yeah. And that's actually one thing that's kind of unique about this game, too. Actually, I haven't played Fuser. It sounds really familiar. I'm going to look it up. But in most rhythm games, like music games, you don't really play the music at all.
Yeah.
Like Guitar Hero, I don't think it really makes the guitar sounds based on what you
doesn't,
play.
yeah.
Like, it'll make like that fret scratching sound if you mess up a note. But you're not really playing the music. And that's the difference here is like you are literally playing a track, and a loud track too. Like you're actually making the music as you go, which is interesting.
And I think that is a piece of its identity and part of its success. And I guess that leads to a big question that I have here. Holy Wow has been a studio of part-time game developers for a very long time. You mentioned this is sort of transitioning into something bigger, which is awesome, and congratulations.
No, thank you.
But when you think of a lot of bigger game development, powered by like metrics of things, and we hit these things and it's got to do all of that. Leading up to Trombone Champ, what has success looked like? Like, what is that idea for a hobbyist studio, and how has this succeeded that?
I mean, first of all, I'm not sure if a major studio would have even picked up this idea because it's so dumb. A real game production company would be like, there's not enough. We don't have any metrics on, trombone or brass overlap with gaming demographics. So it's not worth our time.
Yeah. You don't need a committee on all of those doubts that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like all the jokes in the game and the storyline stuff, like I doubt most larger studios would take a chance on stuff like that. So it's, I didn't expect this to be successful. Of course, I hoped it would sell copies. We have full-time jobs and we're doing this on nights and weekends. I always kind of dreamed like, if something overperforms or performs well enough to like come close to matching my current salary, maybe I could try to like take a year off and do this full time, but actually I am doing that. I was kind of keeping it secret because I hadn't told everyone at my work, but I am leaving my full-time job and I'm going to focus on this for a while because this has made enough money that, we can pursue it full time. And it's also too much work to do on nights and weekends. At this point. It was fine before the game came out. I was totally naive. I was like, I had this idea that once the game came out, like I could relax for a while. I'm like, no, I don't have to work on it for a while because it'll be out. It's the opposite. Like as soon as it came out, Now it's actually in the hands of all these people, and everyone wants updates, everyone wants more songs. There's a lot to do, and I simply can't do it on nights and weekends. So
Of course.
I'm going to take some time on this one now. So I guess that is the definition of success. I mean, the fact that we're going to try this full time for a while, which is really fun and exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Hell
It's a
yeah.
big change.
That's really cool. Well, I mean, Dan, thank you for joining us. Kam, thank you for joining us as well. This was an incredible conversation. Before we wrap up, Dan, I would love for you to tell folks where they can get Trombone Champ, where they can find Holy Wow and all things related to Holy Wow on the internet, and just kind of plug where folks can go, if they haven't yet somehow played this incredible game, where they can go give you their money.
Yeah, at the moment it's only on Steam, only PC. We're hoping to do a Mac port sooner rather than later. Like I've done some testing on that, but there's I want to make some key improvements before pushing it to Mac. So hopefully soon on Mac. God, I don't even I say that, but I don't even know where you get games on Mac. I guess there is Steam on Mac.
There
too,
is.
Right?
There
Yeah.
is.
Okay, so maybe Steam on Mac soon, hopefully. We're mostly active on Twitter. We have a website. Actually, our website's a nightmare. It's ancient. We're actually going to replace it. We realized after launching the game that the last post on that website was from 2014 or something. So we took those posts down. Mainly Twitter, we're active. We have an Instagram, we're not really using it, but hopefully soon we'll have a lot more time to devote to the game. Going to go from a hobby thing to an actual job thing. So we should be more active on all these socials soon. But Twitter, Steam, that's it. Sorry.
No, it's amazing.
That's fine.
Should
Makes
have
it
more.
easy.
Yeah.
We love to keep it simple, and sincerely, Dan, this brought joy in so many different ways and unexpected ways, because again, I'm always leery on rhythm games, just I'm bad at them, and to be bad at something and still have fun, like Kam was saying, is one of the best parts of this game, and it's clearly part of the design, and so it definitely translates.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks. My main goal was just to deliver a lot of jokes and make people laugh. If it makes people smile, that was mission accomplished. I never thought it would get big. So I thought, a small number of people would share it and there might be some funny clips and it would make people laugh. And that was my only goal. So the fact that it's grown so big, it makes me happy. And that, it is making a lot of people laugh.
Amazing.
We need more laughter in games.
I definitely agree. I think
Totally.
It's bringing a lot
pretty
of
much
joy.
every single joke in that game hit for me, at least. So
Well, yeah, there are a lot of ones which are not so hot.
Hey, look, there were ones that I was like, is this necessary? You know what? Yes, it is.
Totally.
Yes, it is.
I also want to thank our King of Ska for joining us, Kam Konek,
Hey.
podcaster extraordinaire, Pokemon card player, Destiny Raider.
Ooh.
Kam, tell folks a little bit about where they can find the stuff that you do and check you out online and possibly listen to some cursed podcasts that you make.
yeah, they're pretty bad. You can find me. I'm on Twitter at the Camdyman. It's TheKamdyman. Do podcasts with some good shows. Have a whole bunch of shows. One of them is a video game one. If you like those, we basically just make up random video games that are generated by a spreadsheet bot, and that's super fun. So check that out, Video Game Robot Show. But a whole bunch of other stuff. Some good shows on Twitter. We post a lot about them there, but you can follow me. I pretty much post about everything I do, just at the Camdyman.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you again for joining us. Yeah, the Video Game Robot Show. If you like improv, comedy, cursed content, and memes,
It's
plus
a
video
bad show.
games,
Yeah.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
It's a good.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a good bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad good.
Bad, non-derogatory.
Yeah. the best podcast.
I
are
completely
bad
agree.
ones.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I can't listen to a podcast that's actually
Yeah.
well produced, where they have
Yeah,
a
if
script or
you
whatever.
have if you're doing BBC style podcasts, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want it.
Unless it's about something really cursed.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Then it balances out.
Right.
Yeah, you got to do that somehow. Speaking of, listeners, please let us know what you think of Trombone Champ. Has this gotten you to want to play it more, play it first? What public domain songs do you think it needs? Does it need an entire education pack that is nothing but the national anthems all around the world? That's entirely too much work. But if you had to pick one, which national anthem would you want to butcher on the trombone with love and respect? Or just about anything else going on with this. What's your favorite Trombone Champ collectible card? Mine is the Trombone Champ card. But please let us know. There's so many ways you can reach out to us. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at funandgamespod. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about this episode, previous episodes, what you'd like us to talk about, and who you'd like us to speak with on future episodes. You can also visit certainpov.com and find not only a permanent invite link to our Discord server, but also links and episodes of other fantastic Certain POV podcasts.
If you also have a moment, we'd love for you to rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice. It really does help us find a bigger audience, grow, and bring more ridiculous trombone-based games to your ears. This is a delight. Thank you both for being guests on the show. I cannot wait to see where Trombone Champ goes, and hopefully there's some more Jewish music in there. Let's get some klezmer going. Let's just get it. Let's get it all in there.
The clarinet's been having that klezmer crown for too long.
Exactly. But yeah, and we're thinking about maybe heading in a Patreon direction. Just let us know the kinds of other things you'd like to see from us. We've done some reviews, some previews recently. We, of course, are still doing side quests. We're trying to grow the entire scope of what Fun and Games is, and are always interested in your feedback.
Yeah, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Let us know. Chat with us. Reach out to us. Scream at us. Whisper to us, but close enough so we can hear you, but, respectful distance. Whatever this is, whatever this image is, let me know how weird that metaphor was, because no matter what, this is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't screen beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry,
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not.
Can I call them Screen Beans now?
Fine.
Screen Beans.
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all Screen Beans now.
You will be mine. Aurora.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.